again, and welcome to Foreplay Radio Sex Therapy. I'm your host, certified sex therapist Laurie Watson, author of Wanting Sex Again, and blogger at Psychology Today and WebMD. And I have with me Dr. Adam Mathews, my co-host, who's a couples therapist, psychotherapist, and president of NCAMFT. Foreplay is dedicated to helping couples keep it hot. Each episode, we cover an aspect of sex that impacts your sex life and something that you can relate to. So if you find our discussions helpful, please give us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. We would love it if you would tell a friend about us. You can find us also on the web at foreplayrst.com. And if you have a comment or a topic that you'd like us to talk about, we'd love to hear from you. Please send them to us at info@foreplayrst.com. Thanks for listening. Now on to today's topic. Good morning, Adam.
Hi, Laurie. How are you?
I'm good.
You're cold this morning.
I'm freezing this morning. I have a blanket. It's the middle of July, and I have a blanket wrapped around me.
All right.
But we keep this podcast room very, very cold.
We do. Yeah. Well, in the wintertime, though, it's really hot. In the summertime,
exactly.
For some reason,
never right.
It's really cold.
I know. It's my whole building. That's a problem. We're always fighting over the temperature here.
Right. So if you're an avid podcast fan and you have a new building that you want to offer Laurie that's climate controlled, she would gladly take it.
Please. I'm freezing.
This morning we're talking about friendship and sex.
Yes.
Right? And why are we talking about friendship? Because it doesn't seem to go together, right? Sometimes,
Yeah, well, I think we're afraid when we hear those two in the same sentence that somehow or another you and I are both going to say, it's okay if a relationship kind of devolves into just a friendship, right?
Yeah.
Sex declines over time, and we should be really grateful for just having a good friendship. And I think that terrifies most of us who are pretty deeply invested in having a good sexual relationship.
Yeah, we want to have a good sex life. And so when we start talking about friendship, that's the fear, is that we somehow revert back to when we were dating, right, where we don't want to fall into the friend zone.
Yeah,
the dreaded friend zone.
Exactly.
And we're afraid that if we pursue just the friendship part of our relationships, that it's going to fall back into that.
Exactly.
And we're just going to be friends, and the sex is going to somehow vanish, and we're supposed to be okay with that. And that's not what we're talking about.
No. But I think friendship is really important in marriage. So I see that there's three functioning aspects of the relationship, which is kind of the bucket of getting things done. A lot of people have trouble getting daily life accomplished, paying their bills, raising their kids, getting the chores done. And then there's the friendship bucket. Do we like our partner? Do we run to them to share things, our successes, our failures, our worries, our fears? Are they the person we count on to kind of have our back? And then there's the sexual intimacy bucket, right? I mean, all three of those things are really essential to a successful partnership or marriage.
But we end up in the bucket of getting stuff done a lot of times, right? That's the one that tends to get a lot of our energy, a lot of our effort, because those things tend to be the most pressing a lot of times, right? They're the deadline things. They're the
urgent, the tyranny of the urgent.
That's right. The bills that have to be paid, the kids that got to get to soccer practice, the jobs that have to be done.
Sure.
But we lose focus on the other two, especially.
Yeah, and most of us, began our lives as friendship. I mean, in some sort of chemistry or attraction, we thought, this is also a person I could have a conversation with.
Yeah. And then when we begin the relationship and the sexual bucket gets added, right, then we start focusing on that one as well. And that's the one we feel the most when it's emptiest.
Right.
We feel deepest when the sex bucket is not getting the attention that it needs. And so then we start pressing for that one. And so it seems friendship comes last a lot of times when in the beginning it came first.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that friendship to me is a concern about our partner and their relationship to the world. Whereas in love, we're concerned about our relationship with our partner. Yeah. And I'm thinking of, some patients that I've seen, and, oftentimes when we think about our partner and their world, we get threatened because their world takes them away from us.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's hard to support them in their direction that is going away from us. We tend to think about, but what about our time together? What about our intimacy? What about, making sure that there's enough time for sex and love? And so it's really hard to support the direction away. But I think it's important because it's freeing, right? It's respect. It gives our partner a sense that we care for them beyond just how they can meet our needs. We care about them as a person.
Yeah. Well, that's what good friends do.
Right.
I mean, that's what best friends do. I mean, they support each other. Yeah, but that there is a fear there that somehow supporting them is going to break the relationship, when it seems to me like it's just a lot of times just the opposite.
Or that if we support their direction away from us, what they're interested in, what their purpose in the world is that then they'll just leave us. They'll have nothing left for us. Yeah. But I like Esther Perel says that fire needs air. And that for us to be erotic, there has to be space between us. There has to be something that is not suffocating. And when the focus is only on how can we prioritize each other, how can we prioritize sex, it becomes suffocating, because it feels selfish. And we talk a lot about it. We think it's really important for people to prioritize sex and time together. And I'm not diminishing that, but I think there's something in this 3-bucket balance of a relationship that is super important to also say, you're my friend, and I care about what you care about. I care about the part of the world that you care about. I mean, I would say as a pursuing partner, that's hard for me. Yeah. This is my own personal, sermon to myself. It's sometimes difficult for me to be as invested in my husband's pursuit of other things and love of other things, because I get anxious, right? It's like, oh my gosh, he's going to not have as much time for me, or he's going to be invested in those things. And that makes me feel a little anxious, but I know that, he in turn is actually really great about supporting my own endeavors. And I feel a lot of space, a lot of friendship, practical, tactical support. As we speak, he's in the next room, right, ready to edit these podcasts and sets things up. And I mean, he's super supportive of my career and what I do. And even though it takes me away from him sometimes, he supports that. And I feel that freedom to become who I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's a gift, and frankly, it turns me on,
Well, I think that's the important key right there, is that we're not sacrificing one for the other. I think that's a lot of times what it feels like, that we're sacrificing sex for friendship, when that's not the case, and where they should feed each other. And I like what you said about that when we're pursuing that at the expense of the other, that's when it becomes suffocating, right?
Yes.
That's when it becomes really unmanageable and feels oppressive. And I think the other thing is that it
can feel controlling.
Yeah.
When a person is saying, but what about us? What about our time? Then it feels controlling when it's unrecognized that our partner has other interests and another life outside of us.
Yeah. I think there's some dangers of not having that solid friendship, right? And you talk about love affairs don't start in the bedroom; they often start with conversation.
Absolutely,
right? You said that before, yeah. And that it starts with an attraction to a friend that they had that space is not being filled by their partner, so that can lead to a pull away from the relationship, right? And so that friendship piece becomes super important. And the other thing is, I think that friendship is really the foundation for good relationships, right? That we're not to committed relationships. It becomes something that everything else gets built on. So that part of it becomes essential to make sure that foundation is in order, and that's why that bucket needs attention, and why it's so important that we have that balance there.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And our relationships usually begin that way. Not necessarily that we are friends that grow into a love relationship, but there's something beyond just physical attraction that happens for a real partnership, right? There's a chemistry. There's a sense of, soulmate. There's a sense of, I get this person, which is all about the beginning of friendship.
Yeah. Well, and I think we confuse sometimes the idea that friendship has to mean complete commonality, right? We're not talking friendship doesn't mean that we have all things in common,
or we have so many common interests.
Yeah, that's not the basis of friendship. There's plenty of friends that I have where we don't share a lot of the same interests. We have some of the same interests. There's something that we're united around. But even with my wife, we don't have exactly the same taste in everything. She has
right.
horrible taste in movies. I have perfect taste in movies, for instance. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
She drags me to all the wrong movies. But there's other things that friendship is built on, that has a history, that has that foundation that we get to build on. But I think I hear a lot of couples coming and saying, we don't have anything in common anymore. How can we be friends?
Yeah.
And they're starting in a wrong place there, I think.
And I think that in friendship, we sort of enjoy differences, right? A different kind of friend with different interests, we can find that exciting. Whereas with a partner, sometimes it's threatening. Oh, they like tennis and I like to run. Yeah. We're not doing anything together. But a person you meet at a cocktail party or a church picnic, right? And they're different than you. It's like, oh, tell me about your life.
Yeah.
We can be interested.
Yeah, that's
not
a good
threatening.
That's a good way to say it. I think you're interested in the other person, right? And you're curious about their world, and so you're driven toward them because of that. It's not repelling. It doesn't push you apart, but it really brings you together, because then you're interested in the other, and you're willing to explore maybe some of the things that you're not fully interested and invested in, but you're willing to explore because they're your friend. And so being that in a partnership really can boost the relationship, really gives it some and I think, tell me with this, I think your friendship sees you through the difficult parts. Right?
Absolutely.
It sees you through the downs, maybe when there is a lull in sex for reasons that are beyond your control, or maybe when things get financial difficulties or any kind of other difficulty that you face, trouble with kids. Your friendship really kind of gets you through that, don't you think? Like it provides the stamina there. And
I think that most people want to have sex with somebody that they feel is a friend. As well. I mean, unfortunately, right, so many couples, like you said, get caught up in the busy, the to-do bucket, or that they don't really take time to nurture the relationship. And so sex kind of becomes a little utilitarian. It's a little cardboard.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a thrill, but it's not necessarily that personal, I'm having sex with somebody that I love. I read a quote by C.S. Lewis, and he was talking about that lust, and this was, written several years ago, but he said lust is when a man wants to have sex. He wants to have, a pleasurable experience. But eros is when he wants to have sex with a particular woman. And it's like that's what you want, is somebody who wants you, who is deeply connected to you in friendship, in love, and working it out on a daily basis.
Yeah, eros being the Greek word for the romantic love, right?
Yes.
Erotic love.
Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, why don't we come back after the break, and we're going to give some tips for how to build friendship, right, in your relationship, and what it really looks like. So you got to get an idea what it can be in a relationship.
Okay, we'll be right back with Foreplay Radio Sex Therapy.
Wanting sex again. How to rediscover desire and heal a sexless marriage by certified sex therapist Laurie Watson.
Each chapter is designed to fix one of the problems that cause low libido, from early marriage through the childbearing years, even all the way through menopause. I've also had men read it and tell me that for them it was the most hopeful thing they read about resolving sexual problems.
Look for Wanting Sex Again on Amazon.com. You can also talk to Laurie Watson for therapy in person or via Skype.
I offer couples counseling and sex therapy, and I think about both aspects of the relationship, emotional intimacy and sexual technique, and that combination together helps marriages be happy.
Weekend couples intensives are also offered. Improve your sex and improve your relationship with Awakening Center for Couples and Intimacy. Find out more at awakenloveandsex.com. Awaken what's possible.
It is one of my great joys in life to be able to really help individuals and couples find strength in their relationships and really find hope again.
Licensed marriage and family therapist Dr. Adam Mathews from Mathews Counseling.
I work with a wide variety of issues, including depression and anxiety, marital issues with adolescents. I believe that therapy should be designed around you, that it should be personalized to who you are and to your unique situation.
Therapy is available in office, online, and by phone.
I want therapy to be comfortable for everyone. At our office, you'll find that we sit around a fireplace in deep, comfortable chairs. look at the problem differently and offer practical solutions for you to take home and utilize outside of the therapy room.
Schedule today and rediscover hope.
You can find me on the web at mathewscounseling.net, Mathews with 1 T. You can contact us through email or phone and find a lot of resources on our website, mathewscounseling.net.
So we're back with Foreplay Radio Sex Therapy, your sex therapist, Laurie Watson, and your couples therapist, Dr. Adam Mathews. And we are talking about friendship and sex. And Adam, we're going to talk about how to become friends when that bucket is really low in the relationship.
Yeah, so one of the things you mentioned in the first half that I'm interested in hearing more about is the idea about friendship providing space for each other, right?
Exactly.
And so how do we do that? How do we provide space for the other person in a real practical way?
Well, I think on the one hand, we want to celebrate their other interests, right? We want to be interested in those. We want to say, you know what, I get it. You know, you have this interest in Parks and Rec, you know, and you want to support the city's Parks and Rec. And that means, you know, it takes you to meetings, it takes you to events, cleanup days, and things like that. And, you know, that takes away from our family time. But I know you're passionate about it because you grew up and were, you know, that was important to you as a child. The Parks and Rec system, you know, really helped you, or you had great experiences there. And so this is the way you want to give back to your community. And so, you know, we get interested in it. We get behind it.
So that's really asking questions a lot about how to get in, why they're interested in it, being curious about what it, like. I think of like coming home from work and having your spouse ask you not just about your day, but about what was exciting about work. What did you like about it? Even if their work really bores you, if there's something they're excited about, you're really
find a way
about
to be interested in their work, like you would if you were talking to your girlfriend, right? I mean, I walk with 2 women in the morning, and I mean, we talk about all kinds of junk. You know, it's just this, that, and the other thing. And, you know, one of them sews, which, you know, I hate to sew, but I'm always interested and I want to see the pictures of what she's doing. Not because I want to do that, but just because it's important to her.
Yeah, but why is that so difficult to do, though, with it? That idea I hear a lot of people talk about? They can do it with their friends, but being that kind of friend to their partner becomes way more difficult, right?
You know, there's this difficulty. We start to cling when we're in partnership. We start to worry and parse out, you know, how much time is there really in a day? How much time is there in a week? And we see that slipping away with our partner's other interests, and we get frantic. But this is synergistic. It is not, you know, minute by minute. It's like you have to believe that this attitude, this feeling of giving your partner respect and interest in their separateness comes back to you because they feel free. You know, they don't feel controlled by you. They feel celebrated for who they are. And that's a very exciting relationship to be in.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off the relationship for sure, right? And I think pressure-free relationships really have the ability to thrive and for people to come more together, right? But I think managing, if I'm feeling that with my spouse, managing my own anxiety around that and pushing through that becomes critical, right?
Yes, and I love that you brought that up, Adam.
Yeah, because I have to be able to ask those questions in a non-panicked way, right? I have to trust that my spouse is going to come back to me if I let them go and do their thing. And thinking through that too, for me, the idea comes, what kind of friend do I want my partner to be, and how do I be that for them? Right. If I can, what kind of friend do I want to be to my friends in life? And like, how do I don't get super panicked when my, when my friend wants to go do his thing. Right.
Yeah.
Or doesn't want to come hang out with me and rather has something else he's going to do.
It doesn't hurt your feelings.
It doesn't hurt my feelings.
I mean, my best girlfriend and I, we talk to each other, a couple times a week, but there will be weeks that we don't call each other, and I never think, oh my gosh, she doesn't like me or she's not my friend. It's like we pick up right where we left off. Yeah. You know, there's a sense of constancy in friendship. You know, I don't have to keep proving it over and over again that they love me.
Yeah. But we ask our partners to do that.
We
right?
do. We get more insecure
but
there.
Because there's greater risk but there's greater reward, and so that makes sense. But moving forward from that, if we can begin to treat them more in the sense of attuning to that friendship side, we get a lot more out of it, I think.
Right, and I think that it's, again, I want to underline, it's respect for the individual. Mm-hmm. It's kind of making your partner a priority for and an interest in their life apart from your own life.
Yeah. Well, and I think along with that respect comes a kindness too, right? Like I think that's one of the things Gottman finds a lot is that kindness is really the key to really healthy marriages and relationships, right? And that is a key that's a friendship component as well, is when you respect them, you increase your ability to be kind to them, which just really leads to a lot of positive things in your relationship.
Yeah, and I like what you said, because you think about the neighbor who comes over for dinner and they spill their wine glass, or their kid spills milk all over your table, and you're kind. You're like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll clean it up. Yeah. Whereas if your partner or your family member or one of your kids spills, it's like, oh, did you have to,
Why were you so clumsy?
And we're irritated. Yeah. But in friendship, we absolutely are kind first, right? Yeah. Don't even think about it. Yeah. No, you can't possibly pay me for that. No. Yeah. There's no payback here. It's no big deal. We're always kind to our friends. We often treat our friends better than we treat our partner, right?
Yeah. And that gives, for me, that gives me a good basis for thinking through what can I do to be a better friend to my spouse. Right. Where are the areas that I'm not doing this with, that I'm doing it with other people, that I'm not doing it with her? And that gives me some places to start to say, how can I tune into being a better friend for sure?
And I think I would start with, first of all, be friendly. Mm. So many people come home, they've had a hard day, and they feel like it's their right to come home and just absolutely dump and be grumpy. Well, I had a tough day, and, I just feel like crap, and so I'm going to just take it out on my family. Yeah. It's like, you know what? Nobody wants to have sex with a grumpy bear. I mean, seriously, nobody wants to have sex with somebody who is complaining and whining and grumpy. Mm-hmm. It's like you have to save something for your family and for your partner, because coming in and having nothing left and not being friendly or being surly, and then expecting sex in the evening, just forget about it.
Yeah, grumpy is the dwarf that is getting the least amount of sex, right?
That's what.
Of all of them,
absolutely,
he's getting the least.
I also think about friendship. Probably one of my highest values is loyalty. Yeah, it's like I want somebody who's on my side.
Yeah, somebody that's in the foxhole with you, that's got your back, and that's going to defend you to other people.
Yeah, and even if they only just start in that position. Like one of my girlfriends, when we would walk, we used to walk when we had babies 2 miles. And the first mile would be the bitch mile. We would be like dumping our day to each other and in a way that worked for our friendship, sort of getting out all the stresses. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, that's terrible. I can't believe he did that, or your kids did that. But the second mile was a gentle, kind confrontation. It was like the first part, they were completely loyal. You're right. You have a miserable life. But the second mile was sort of, okay, well, how do you think you could have handled it differently? Or what do you think you contributed to it? But it was that deep sense of they're on my side that I could then take that kind of intervention. Without that deep sense that they had listened to me, that they were on my side, I wouldn't have been able to, understand their desire for me to grow.
Yeah. I really want to come on some of the walks with you and your friends. I just want to be a fly on the wall. It sounds
you want to talk about sewing?
No, I don't. I just want to listen. I want to be there for the bitch mile, and then I'll bail. I'll bail after that.
That's fun.
Yeah, I think loyalty to me, like one of the things that I do think is interesting is how we talk about our spouse to somebody else and to other people, right? And I wonder about the amount of times. I think there's room for kind of just everyday, like, oh, I can't believe my wife did this.
Right.
But I think we need to think about how we are loyal in those settings as well, because that comes back around. So especially with like family, right? With extended family.
Oh my goodness.
Like not talking bad
Big
about
place. Yeah.
our spouse, to family, to our kids, like not talking bad about ever doing that.
I mean, I hear people do that all the time. They tear down their partner in front of their kids.
Yeah, and if we think about a friend doing that, like we wouldn't be friends with that person.
We wouldn't be friends with them.
We wouldn't be friends with that person that came up to my mom and talked bad about me. And so, like, I think there's space for like a little bit of that. But overall, like the interaction mostly has to be us defending our spouse, being loyal to our spouse in that way.
Yes.
And
really, never use their vulnerability against them.
That's right.
You know, when they're telling you something about what their girlfriend said or their guy friend did or whatever, never bring that up again and say, well, that's how you treat me too. No wonder they did that. I mean, way to like shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah. The other thing I think about as we kind of start to wrap up, and the last thing maybe is just the companionship piece. Like, what do you think about? I mean, there is something when we mention that it's not central that we have everything in common, but companionship is a little bit different.
It is,
right? And that seems to me to be we do stuff with our friends that we ultimately enjoy, right?
Yes.
The time together is good, and that friendship, that part has to be there as well,
right? And we look forward to being with them, just hanging out. It doesn't have to be, doing something super special. It can just be a relaxed moment, and I think it's those relaxed moments, end of the hard day, you were both working in the backyard or something, you take a shower, you just fall into the couch, and that can be really deeply intimate and lead to a sense of wanting closeness because you've had enough space.
Yeah, that's part of that. That does lead to the other bucket of getting stuff done, is that you're in that together, doing that stuff together.
Shoulder to shoulder.
Shoulder to shoulder. Yeah. You're not, everybody's playing a role, everybody's pitching in, right? And that companionship. And then you get to do the fun things together as well that you both enjoy, taking turns or doing stuff that you have common interest in. But I like that idea of shoulder to shoulder. Like, that's loyal, but that's also...
You're facing the world together.
That's right.
And you're on the same side.
Oh, my goodness. That's something I talk about, like, that seems to be a big breakthrough for couples a lot of times, is when they try to stop thinking about it, when they can stop thinking about going against each other. They're not playing tug of war anymore. They turn and they face the world together. Like, it's everybody else against them.
Absolutely. Okay, so you've been listening to Foreplay Radio Sex Therapy. We're talking about friendship and sex and how they're related and how we need both to make a fulfilling relationship. And I would say maybe last tip of the day, just to underscore, be friendly with each other. Be friendly.
Yeah.
Okay, this is your sex therapist, Laurie Watson, and your couples therapist, Dr. Adam Mathews, signing out. Hey, help us stay on top here at Foreplay. We'd love it if you would subscribe and share it with your friends. And please take 1 sec and rate and review us. Thanks so much.